Levack Goz here with you. It is a Section Tuesday. Levack is off. Wood's in for him. But Mr. No Days Off himself, Chris Onorato.
I'll be off Thursday. Well, I'll be here Thursday, and then I'll be off from TV Thursday.
After a week off.
He had last week off,
What
too.
happened to your nickname, my friend? What's going on?
I decided nicknames are overrated.
How was the city of Memphis, Nashville, wherever you were off to?
Flew into Memphis. I have some family, a cousin of mine who's crazy. She's great. Her husband's even crazier than she. Thank you. And so we flew into Memphis, hung out in Memphis on Monday, got to see the Lorraine Motel. I'm a history guy, so loved seeing that, where Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Ate some Gus's chicken, which is spot-on stuff, and then hung out by the pool. They have a lake house. Checked out Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi. It's funny is when you get out of your own little bubble and you travel to other states and cities, you realize like, oh, we're that close to Mississippi, or we're that close to St. Louis. Tennessee, parts of Tennessee are so close to other states that it's easy to just hop back and forth. So we saw the fraternity in which Eli Manning was a brother.
Wow.
And Ole Miss and Oxford, that's a really, really cool town. If you're ever in the South and you can hop over to Oxford, do it.
Did you happen to run into anyone that knows how to throw a football better than Christian Hackenberg? So basically, did you run into anyone at Ole Miss that could throw a football?
There's hate for Hackenberg here.
A little, yeah.
Yeah. That depends. Does Chad Kelly throw it better?
I think anyone can pretty much throw it better. If you hit reporters that aren't even near the play.
That's true. He has done that, but there's still a lot of good pub coming out of camp about Hackenberg. I don't know.
What's he, like, cooking dinner off the field and everybody's liking that? Or?
A lot of good pub also coming about Section Tuesday here at Hamir Wright. Albany Academy Zone has committed to play basketball at the University of Washington with Coach Mike Hopkins. What do you make of this commitment for a local guy to go to the Pacific Northwest?
We had Hamir on the show yesterday morning. He committed over the weekend on Saturday. And guys, this is, Hamir's a guy who all along had planned to go to Brewster Academy, do a year of prep, and his reasoning for that was, look, he had the Albany Academy degree. He was all set there, had graduated high school. But his reason for the gap year, if you will, was because he was inundated with these scholarship offers. Every big program in America essentially wanted Hamir Wright. And they got on it a little bit later. So, Michigan State calls, Villanova calls, Syracuse was on him, Goz, as you know. So, what do you do? If you're unsure, you can take that year to maybe soak it all in and make the right choice. What ended up happening, though, with Mike Hopkins is he gets the Washington job. Obviously didn't see that coming. Not many people did. So Hopkins, who had recruited Hamir Wright since his freshman year at Albany Academy, there was that connection there. They already had that established relationship. And so when he gets the Washington job, is there a hotter program right now in the country than Washington with the success of Isaiah Thomas in the NBA? Markelle Fultz goes number 1 in the draft. And so I think Hamir took the trip out there. He said he didn't want to stay close to home. Seattle is about as far away as you can get from Albany, New York.
Yeah.
And Hopkins is a coach that Hamir says he trusts. He wants to play under him. It all of a sudden just kind of fit. And because, like I said, he's got that high school degree, he can tell Brewster Academy, I'm good. I'm going to go class of 2021 is, I guess, what it would be, and commit to UW.
So the commitment of Hamir Wright to Washington is less about Syracuse basketball not being able to nail another upstate New York prospect and more about Wright just wanting to go somewhere else rather than upstate New York.
Yeah, I don't know that he would have chosen Syracuse even if Hopkins were still there. I think the proximity to Albany was not what he was looking for. I can't speak to his thoughts on the program or how he felt he would fit in there, but I know Michigan State and obviously we mentioned Villanova, they were both involved as well and high up on his list. But that connection to Hopkins certainly is a big factor into why he ended up at Washington.
Section Tuesday here, Chris Onorato joining us here on Levack and Goz. Woods in for Levack here on 104.5 The Team. We'll get to your Braves and baseball pitchers in a second, but first, You had an opportunity to view a Siena basketball practice, some of it open to the media. What did you take away from that first session of the 2017-2018 Siena St. team?
It's a weird, we can't even get going on the NCAA. We don't have enough time. But it's there are specific windows where, I don't know if the media is just simply not allowed inside or we're not allowed to get video of it. I don't know. I'm going to guess just not allowed in at all. So anyway, we end up interviewing some of these players in a conference room yesterday. Can't be in the gym, so we weren't. But talked to Nico Clarith, who, as you guys know, are a captain. He's a captain going into this year, along with Kevin Degnan, who was a transfer last year. And the one thing that stood out to be about Nico is, granted, what are we talking, 4 months or so, but still in that time frame, he seems to have matured in a way where he realizes, look, the Marquise Wrights, the Javion Ogunyemis of the world, those seniors, Brett Bisping, Levon Long, those guys are gone. So somebody's going to have to grab the reins of this team. It cannot always be Coach Patsos, the voice that you hear in the locker room or at practice. And so I think he's kind of, flipped a switch here and has found a different level of maturity to, one, be the captain, but two, be the leader. It's easy to say you're the captain.
Right.
You have to be the leader on a team, though. And I think Nico, from just the brief conversation we had with him yesterday, appears ready to do that. He's got to be the leading scorer, but he's got to be the leader on this team as well. And look, we will find out, as they say. The one guy I think a lot of Siena fans will be excited about is Prince Adoro, incoming freshman. He's on the Canadian under-19 team. So what you see Kevin Herter doing for Team USA, that's Prince Adoro in Canada. And so obviously he isn't with Siena yet. He will play for the World Cup for Canada, and then he'll be on campus with Siena, but that is certainly a name I think a lot of fans will be excited about.
Let's go back to baseball now. Our guy, Jeff Hoffman, former Shaker grad, has had a tremendous start to his career out there in Colorado. Shaky the last time out, but he's got another start tonight. What do you expect tonight from Jeff Hoffman?
I would expect him to get back on track. He was so good for 4 or 5 starts before he had what I believe would be more of a blip on the radar, because he really did kind of blow up. I mean, that you wouldn't expect to see that again. I would expect to see Hoffman get back on track tonight. The strikeout rate is so good with him that's what excites the Rockies the most. I know that the beat reporters we've spoken to out in Denver, they say that with him is that he strikes out so many guys, and they don't have a lot of guys in the rotation who do that. They need a starter who can really blow away hitters and make for some easy outs on the defense. And so I would think that we're going to see that out of Jeff tonight. But I'll tell you what, I mean, for the little taste he's gotten along the way in the majors, up and down between Albuquerque and Denver, he's sticking. I mean, this is a team that's obviously on the playoff track, and he's going to be a factor in that starting rotation all season.
How about the Atlanta Braves and Ian Anderson?
How about
your
them?
team?
The single A, the Class
right.
A, the Rome Braves. Yeah, Anderson was really good last night. I know Roger had it on the news last night at 11 o'clock. Only threw 4 innings because he did hit 100 pitches, but they've expanded that pitch count for him. At the beginning of the year, he was usually around 70. And now he threw 100 last night, struck out 8, I believe, only gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, no runs. And that was a good sign for him because he did kind of fluctuate a little bit, struggle a little bit, had a 500 record coming in. I was surprised he didn't make the All-Star team. Again, a guy who just strikes batters out in bunches. His strikeout rate per 9 is off the charts. And honestly, if you look at the Atlanta Braves now, that is something they don't have in the starting rotation. Mike Fultonevich is a young guy that they like, and he gets a lot of strikeouts too. But R.A. Dickey, Bartolo Colon, Julio Teheran, these guys are not striking out a lot of batters. So even at 19 years old, I think Atlanta is excited about where Ian Anderson is and where he may be at the end of the year. He should be out of Class A by the end of the year, in my opinion.
Do you think he's ahead of schedule? Could we see him maybe in the majors sooner than we actually had projected him to be?
I don't know how much they'll rush him, Woodsy, because he's 19. I don't know what would be ahead of schedule in the May 21. I'd be surprised if you're seeing him in the major leagues in 2 years. Even to think 22 in the bigs, That's still young. I mean, did Severino do that, I guess, for the Yankees? Probably he would have been 22 when they first called him up.
There's probably a handful of guys in the majors that were under 22 in the last 4 years that have been able to pull that off. Yeah,
absolutely. And, a lot of what these teams now worry about is starting the clock. It's starting the arbitration clock. So once you get rookie status slapped on a guy, yeah, he can go back down to the minors, but you have started his arbitration clock, and that limits the length of control, club control you have over a guy. I think teams are too cautious about that, but for the fact of not sending him up and I don't know, Woodsy. It's a good question. In 2 years, could we see him? Maybe, but I would say more around 22, 23 would we see Ian Anderson.
He used to be Mr. No Days Off. Now I'll show up when I'm
taking him off all over the place, baby.
Chris Onorato from Big Board Sports. Check him out also. The Mighty 1-3. Chris, appreciate your time. We'll talk to you maybe next Wednesday. July 4th is next Tuesday, so we'll talk to you again at some point next week.
What do we call that?
Section Wednesday.
Very creative.
Thanks, boys.
Very creative.